Welcome back to the Rebel's Edge, where we're going to describe for you ASML, their warning about how earnings look, as well as President Biden perhaps ramping up some of the export problems for chip makers. And then you've got President Trump saying Taiwan needs to pay for its own defense. That and a lot more here on the Rebel's Edge. Bang. Bang. Welcome back to the Rebel's Edge, folks. I am John Najarian. I've got the founder of Trade the Chain, Alex Mascioli, right over there, joining us on the episode again today because Pete is still at some undisclosed location. Welcome, Alex.
Hey, John. Thank you. Once again, back on the Rebel's Edge. Love it.
Well, we love having you, sir. We're going to dive right in, folks, into that Dutch semiconductor maker ASML because we were pretty negative early on today. Semiconductor stocks were moving lower. Taiwan Semi, Nvidia, you name it, they were all heading lower. Some of it because of what President Biden might do. He hasn't done it yet. And some of it because President Trump, who's trying to get reelected, is out there saying maybe Taiwan needs to pay for the protection that we might have to provide. So that's kind of my look at the macro. What do you have, Alex?
Well, I mean, I got just one note to touch on that, and that was an interesting statistic is that with Chipmaker ASML, even though they're a Dutch company, about 50% of their supply is actually sold to China. So they do have their foot in the door over there, and I could see how that might be a concern.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Well, folks, we also get to fantastic futures, and today, a tanker in the Gulf was hit by a drone. Now, luckily, no loss of life, and the tanker wasn't severely damaged, but the explosion looked pretty big when it hit that tanker, and it helped propel crude oil to almost $83 a barrel again. So even though we don't root for attacks, nonetheless, that is my view of fantastic futures today, Alex.
Well, I'm not going to argue with you there. The pictures are quite impressive as far as the explosion's concerned. And, you know, energy is on top of our mind all the time, as we mentioned yesterday.
Well, then we've got DJT. And in this case, Trump Media and Technology Group. Take a look at this, folks, because there was just normal activity in the stock. By normal, I mean, you know, you can see on the screen there, total volumes traded. If you go back to the 12th, 7/12, the third one down as you look at your screen there, you see that it traded 4.3 million shares. It's not really out of line versus any of the other volumes you might see. This is provided, by the way, by Buy-ins Net. That's BUYINSNET. And they provided me with this, basically showing me where they thought short squeezes would be and so forth. What's interesting, I thought, Alex, was that just ahead of the rally in Pennsylvania, Western Pennsylvania, where the president, former President Trump, was nearly assassinated, it came pretty darn close to that. We had double the call volume of the previous sessions. So the stock volume, very normal. As you can see, again, you see a whole bunch of 4 million share trades, some 5 million, 6 million, even 9 million. So none of that was extraordinary on Friday last week, but the call action and perhaps the selling of calls might be a bit of a tip-off. We've got to dive deeper, but thus far, we're looking at some pretty interesting statistical evidence that at least somebody was placing a pretty big bet into that Pennsylvania rally. Now, we don't want to be conspiracy theorists any more than I already am. I don't know if Alex has put on his tinfoil hat, but we are keeping an eye on all of this because, believe it or not, folks, almost everything that happens in the world can impact stock prices. And we watch all of it. So we like to share that with you. All right, Alex, let's dive into some real stock trades today, like Gitlab, because it was up as much as 16, 17% early on, because the San Francisco-based company that obviously Google has a pretty big share in here, about 22%. And there's a rumor out there that Reuters reported that they are putting themselves up for sale. What do you think about that, Alex?
Yeah, absolutely. Alphabet company has a lot of share in it. GitLab is founded in 2014. It's reached its shelf life as far as I believe. It's ready for a sale. They're valuing it around $8 billion, and a company called Datadog is come in to take a look under the covers to see if it's going to snap it up. Datadog is worth about $44 billion. But this is a hot performing area right now. And after 10 years, I'm sure that Alphabet, which is a major investor, wants to divest itself and kind of realize some of those profits. So I think it's a smart move, and I think it's a natural one.
If you take a look at the unusual activity, we had very strong activity in GitLab, and those calls paying off pretty big, as they usually do when somebody has a bit of good information like this, as you see there, from 51 all the way to 55, really. Those calls, the 51 calls, moving up pretty dramatically from the entry price. All right.
A real quick side note on that, and I didn't mean to interrupt, is, also it may or may not have anything to do with it, but one of the co-founders is actually going for cancer treatment for a second time right now. And he still controls 45.5% of the firm's voting share. So I'm sure that with that and Alphabet's interest of 22% that you'd mentioned, this sale will go through on a voting proxy.
It seems like if those two lined up, you'd indeed have something like that. All right, let's take a look at Nvidia, Taiwan Semi, ASML. As we said, top of the show, big chip stock declines early on because of President Trump's Taiwan comments. Again, just like with NATO, he wants Taiwan to pay for the defense that we might have to provide, especially if he became president again. And then key players like ASML, they basically said, hey, we've got a lot of exposure in China, and now we're worried about what the U.S. is doing that might disrupt our sales to China. So all of those stocks really moving rapidly, Alex.
Yeah, I really don't have much more to add to this. You've covered basically all of it and the concerns, and we'll see what the government decides to do. Obviously, both the president and the presidential candidate are looking to make this a tough ride for exports in.
Yeah, and Taiwan Semi is down some 7%. TSM. The others are down about the same, 6 to 7%, those big semis. And when in the case of Nvidia in particular, that's billions and hundreds of billions of dollars in this semiconductor space alone on this move. All right, let's move on to VFC Corp, Alex, because VFC is Luxottica, and apparently they have agreed to buy Supreme. Many of you don't know what Supreme is. If you've got kids, they know what Supreme is. It's very expensive T-shirts that say Supreme on them. It's also backpacks, anything they could put that label on. This was bought, Alex, for $2 billion back in 2020. Now they're punting it, VF Corp is, for about $1.5 billion. Now that doesn't mean necessarily that they lost money, because they said it was going to bring in about $500 million a year. So that's $500 million per year. I don't know if it did that, Alex, but I will say that nonetheless, Luxottica, which has like Ray-Bans and all that kind of stuff, is one of those sort of aspirational, I'll call it, brands. And we had unusual activity in this one, Alex. They were buying calls in VF Corp in a pretty big way. So another example, folks, that if you pay attention to what John, Pete, Alex, Mark Lopresti are saying on this show, you could perhaps make a lot of money. These calls went from 7 cents to 85 cents today, and that's a 12x, my friends. What do you think of this one, Alex? Do you like VF Corp with all of those luxury brands?
Yeah, I'm surprised. I'm surprised at this sale. And VF Corp, which owns Vans and North Face and other brands that kind of fit along the vertical here, I thought it would perform better for them. But, Supreme is, and as having college age child, I have forked over money to finance Supreme drops and various expensive T-shirts. But Supreme is a very limited company. So they do limited high-end releases, right? So to kind of gain back that $2.1 billion that they paid for it a couple of years ago would have been hard. I think more surprising, though, than them trying to divest themselves of this is the Luxottica acquisition. Listen, Luxottica is currently in a market that is underperforming, and they're going outside their core business box by, really taking a gamble on Supreme, more so than if it was more of a general clothing brand type line. So, listen, I wish the best of luck for Luxottica. I just don't see where the puzzle piece is fitting into its business model right now.
Yeah, neither do I. I'm right there with you, Alex. And by the way, if you want to learn, folks, how to trade that unusual option activity, I would encourage you to check out itsnotanoption.com, because our book, It's Not an Option, is available to you for free. You just pay for shipping, and it's itsnotanoption.com. All right, one more stock, Alex, Bloom Energy. This one moving higher after it entered into a partnership to deploy their fuel cells on site, which is, of course, a pretty big deal. These are for a particular data center in Illinois, but it's an endorsement of what BE does. And Alex, you and I have talked a lot about energy and the demands that AI and EVs put on energy. I think this is, a sign that maybe Bloom Energy is one of the places people will go to get some relief from these demands for energy that are exceeding their ability to produce.
Yeah, absolutely. We've talked about the consumption with AI. We touched on it yesterday, even before this came out. And Bloom has these proprietary fuel cells, and I looked into them, and I can't figure it out, all the fancy words they use, but these are supposed to eliminate and alleviate some of those issues that we spoke about with consumption of energy, and data centers are very important. So I hope more technology comes out like this and the evolution continues.
Yep. Whether it's through BE or whether it's through nanonuclear like NNE, it's an important thing, and you'll hear more and more about that, folks. That's why I'm in both of those stocks. All right. Alex, Pete's not here, but we're doing Red Zone Sports. We'll try to whip through it quick. I'm going to throw out there, it's always important when you're spending money that you're getting value for money. And I'll tell you who's getting value for money, and it ain't the highest paying places in baseball, which would be, for instance, the Yankees and the Mets, two of the highest payrolls in all of sports. Instead, it's Baltimore, Cleveland, Seattle, Milwaukee. Now, these guys are leading 4 of the 6 divisions, and they have some of the lowest payroll numbers of any of these. So these are guys that are getting value for money, right, Alex?
That is true. And I just want to note that I'm available to play for any of those teams if they have extra money to spend.
I'm sure. I would love to play for any of those teams, too. Put me in, coach, as they say. All right. Last one, we'll wind up with this, Alex. The NFL team that's going to be a shocker. You and I both love to watch football. Last year it was Houston. CJ Stroud just was a standout, just a fabulous acquisition out of Ohio State versus some of the other people that they could have picked. They were smart enough, lucky enough to take CJ Stroud, and boy, that team turned around in a hurry. This year, Alex, is it going to be, I'll throw three out for you. Is it going to be the Chicago Bears, the LA Chargers, or the Colts, the Indianapolis Colts? Which of those three, if you had to be on the spot, which you are right now, which of those three would you pick, Alex?
Oh, that's an easy one, Dr. J. I'm picking the Chicago Bears, so I get invited back on the show.
That's right. He's exactly right, folks. We might have barred him from the show if he said the Bolts or the Colts. It is the Chicago Bears. He's exactly right. All right, Alex. Hey, you're a trooper. Thank you for hanging in there for us today for the Rebel's Edge. Remember, folks, we do the Rebel's Edge Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, which means we'll be back tomorrow at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. Thank you for tuning in.